So now that we've covered the basics of materials and everything that you'll be working with as a designer, I feel like it's time to have some real fun and show you the power of materials. And with this first example, but there's going to be a bunch of examples going forward. The first one is the material parameter collection. And I think a cool showcase is we have this sad environment. Look at all those dull colors and dead trees. But when I press 1 on my keyboard, here we go, suddenly trees are growing, the ground is going from brown to green, and we've got some grass popping up. And this is all done on the materials. The animation stuff is done in the materials using material parameter collections. So we now understand the concept of parameters inside of materials, right? These are the variables that we upgrade to a parameter. We can also set up a collection of these parameters and then use them in different materials. So sort of combining a bit of that material function side of things, but you can look at these as global variables. So these variables are shared everywhere they are being used. So everywhere that you use that parameter, that variable, if you update it once, it will be updated for all of them. I will open this one in a second, but first I'll show you how to make one. If you go right mouse button, material, it is right there as a third option, material parameter collection. I made one that's called nature, and I'm going to open it up, and I'll also close down some things because I can see it's getting very busy. Say no. And what does this give us? It gives us scalar parameters, so that's a value between 0 and 1, and it gives us vector parameters. Obviously, that's going to be the vector 4 again, similar to how we upgrade a vector 3. Once we promote it to a parameter, it turns into a vector 4 parameter. So I added a bunch of different ones, and I could add a new one if I wanted to, right? Just by clicking this little +1, I now have a new vector that I can give a color of my liking and a name. You have to give it a name as well. So I have grass floor, grass color, leaf color, trunk scale, leaf scale, and grass scale. So these are the parameters that we want to use. I've added them to all of the different materials, and let's have a look at grass, for example. Here we can see that instead of using a vector 3 or a vector 4, I am using this new node. Well, if I look for collection parameter, we see this new node has a very similar appearance. And if we check the details panel, I can specify the collection, which I'll use the nature one. And then I can say which parameter are we actually using? Well, we're using grass color because this is our material for grass. I did the same for scale. And I added this little material function, actor scale, to update the look of an actor. This does not change collision. This only changes the visual. So it will take in a scale variable and it will update the scale of the visuals of the mesh. And I put that in the world position offset. This is one of the nodes that you can use, you can play around with. We'll use it more often in this course. But in this case, this material function actor scale makes sure that it scales up and down depending on the collection parameter for grass scale. Now, okay, hopefully that part is clear. We're using these parameters that are stored in this collection of parameters. How do we go about updating them? This is where blueprints come into play, and they complement each other very well. I will open up a tree as an example, which is empty because I put the logic in the player character, which I will find by going to world settings, first person game mode, and then select the first person character. Oh, I have the 1 and 2, 1 sort of starting the process, 2 stopping the process. And this looks chaotic, but really we can look at one of these nodes and then we understand all of them. I have a timeline, which goes from 0 to 1. It's an alpha, so there's a start and there's an end. And that's going to happen over the course of 10 seconds. So over the course of 10 seconds, we have this output going from 0 to 1. And then for the scale, I'm going to say whatever the starting scale is, we're going to blend from that to 1 because I'm sort of starting in the depressed setting. It's a bit hard-coded. Could be done more neatly, but we'll roll with it. And we have the alpha from our timeline, and that will say, okay, we have a starting value and an end value of 1. Let's go from whatever the start is to the end. A similar process is done for the color. We have a grass color at the start and a grass color at the end. So this is the color. It will transition from color 1 to color 2 over the course of 10 seconds. And I saved them here on begin play. As you can see, I'm actually setting the scalar parameter to the default values that I have set. And so basically in any blueprint, at any time, you can say set scalar parameter value or set vector parameter value. And you can just say, oh, this is the parameter we're changing. What is the name? Well, it's one of these. It's leaf scale or trunk color or whatever. And we can give it a new value. We can do this in the character. If we wanted to, we could do this in the level blueprint. This is just a node that you can call, and it will actually change that parameter, which then changes the visuals for everything. So let's have a look at it one more time. I press 1, and we get color. We get these things popping back into the scene, going from grass to trees. Everything is slowly, gradually appearing. I press 2, and everything is going back to depression. And yeah, that's sort of how we can play around with collection parameters. This is also a good example, again, talking about weather states. So rain or snow, right? Snow, you either have snow or you don't have snow. And if you have a buildup, that's probably saved as a scalar somewhere. So in a material function, you can actually have a collection parameter for nature, and let's pretend that the leaf scale is our snow, and we can have access to this parameter inside of a material function, and that material function can be applied to any material. So if you have your weather system, so if you combine the power of these two, you can really set up a modular and easy to work with system. It's super cool. Another example that I have here is the music map. I won't save this time. So another great example of using collection parameters is to play around with audio, for example. I'm going to press play here, and we have, I hope you can hear the music as well, but we got this default music going on. Otherwise, you can check it out in the project for yourself. And the intensity of the music is both sending emissive updates and scale updates. So we have got all of these things at the same time, updating their scale, updating their visuals, depending on the sounds of music. And if we open up this material, the parent material for music, we can see it's pretty simple. We have a color parameter that is used for the base color, and then we multiply that with an emissive multiplier that is part of a collection parameter used for music. I created this MPC, material parameter collection, and that has a scalar scale value of 0.5 and a emissive multiplier of 0.0. And I update that. Where do I update that? Well, that's in one blueprint. It's probably easily find it here. Yeah, the BP music communicator. And on begin play, it just starts playing some music. And on tick, it is actually getting the cooked amplitude data, which is something you need to enable in the file. I explained that here. So you have to open the wave file and then say amplitude, enable amplitude envelope analysis. That means that that audio file is analyzed and you can work with that data. So I then take whatever data is coming out, it's basically the intensity of the sound, and I multiply that with a value that works well for my examples. And then for that material parameter collection, I now update both the emissive multiplier and the scale. So that's how we see them actually scale up and down. And just by, in this one actor, in this one location, running one event on tick, checking a variable, I can update the visuals of everything in my level if I wanted to, but I already have 4 different materials here being updated with that one actor. So it's really powerful. You can really have some fun, and there's a ton of different ways that you can apply this. These are just a few examples. In the next one, we're going to get a bit more specific and less global, but more like on individual actors, and we'll look at dynamic materials.